What is up, you guys? We are here for our weekly energy oracle forecast. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for excusing my absence over the weekend. There's been a lot of holiday parties in my social circle this week, and I have just been running on fumes, trying to stay alive in the party, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I even sat down on Friday. So my friend had the Christmas camp party on Thursday, which you guys saw. I made a video after the party that night, kind of lit. We hadn't had little drinky Liz in a minute, so you all had a treat there with my costume on, which was great, Star of Bethlehem. And then the next night I actually picked up a shift at work so that I could make up for the night that I had off for Saturday night, which was last night. And my friend had another holiday party where we fill socks with gifts and pass them around in a game, and it was really fun. But so I had sat down after work Friday to do Secret Teachings of Jesus, even though I hadn't had a chance to do our reading during the day because I woke up hungover from the party the night before and remembered that it was my nephew's lunch, coffee, birthday group friend thing. So I had to rush to do that, then go to work. So the content has been off. So we're back, but I even thought about doing Secret Teachings of Jesus Friday, but I was just so out of gas by then. So I wanted to give it my all, and I'm glad I did, because in this week's Zohar portion, the commentary on the Torah, it lines up perfectly with the portion of Mary's, talking about the ascension of the soul, which was the passage we're picking up with. So that, I think, was serendipitous, so I'm glad. All right, let's take a look at the week ahead. First, let's just think about the fact that tonight is the first night of Hanukkah, Chag Sameach, and this is when we plant the seed level to set our consciousness for the next 8 days, where we can really connect with the light of God, with the light of miracles, simply by having that desire and by creating the time and space to do so. And so when we light the candles of the menorah, the candle light is not to actually light the room. So there should be other lights on, because they shouldn't perform like a mundane function, but rather they perform the function of emanating this higher light, the spiritual light of God, the endless light. And so we focus and we meditate on the Or HaGanuz, which is the endless light from which all emanates. And that is the ultimate source of all of the things, right? That's where the creator is in the ultimate form of everything is all in one and everything is. And before the creator is sort of shown through the prism that kind of distributes the different varieties of the Godhead that are sort of like different hues, like the colors of the rainbow, right? The varying aspects of God's archetypal psychological elements, if that makes sense. So all that to say, we are connecting with the all-encompassing light of the creator through the next 8 days. And so day one of Hanukkah, one of the things that we can do to reveal that light and begin to plant the seed is by extending ourselves in an act of sharing, or rising above our comfort zone to reveal more of our greatness, or to do something good, or to help someone else in a way that would help reveal their greatness or help them in some way. So acts of sharing, acts of goodness, acts of paying attention and being connected to the awe of the miracles that are around us that we really take for granted. There's so many miracles and gifts that we could find deep appreciation, and we can really see the face of God in if we stop to think about it and take it all in. So I think that one thing that is such a gift of being a mystic and sort of living in a magical state all the time is not that you're in these grandiose, larger than life blessings, that maybe like the mega church mindset would make you think, but more so finding the miracles in the quiet simplicity of life. And you see God revealed in so many things, big and small. But it comes in the form of things that are already there in the simplicity in every moment. There's God's presence. And so we can connect with that by bringing presence and reverence to our minutes and our hours and our days, right? So we are in awe of the things that we are appreciative of. We look at those we love and we celebrate the miracle of their life. We celebrate the miracles of healing and deliverance from things that bring us sorrow or unrest. This is a time of year where we can connect to miracles, right? And part of being able to do that is to sit in the quiet stillness to provide space for the miracles. So many of the portions that I've been reading lately, whether they be in the Gospel of Mary, which is in the Nag Hammadi scriptures, or the Zohar, which has been talking about Jacob losing his son Joseph, and Joseph being sold into slavery, going down into slavery in Egypt, that when he went down into that slavery, through that journey, he ascended and ultimately became a king of Egypt. And which foreshadowed the coming of Christ down into the body, into the material, planting that seed for us to then, as a collective soul, ascend, beyond this physical realm, right? Another example of that, going out of Egypt. And then Mary talks about this in the ascent of the soul. In this portion that's coming up, we'll do that this coming Saturday. So I think it's really interesting how they all tie in and play together, but it's like we have to be able to go down into this darkness in order to overcome it, right? To overcome sorrow and fear and doubt and lack, even when we're in it, and know that we're whole and that God's light is with us, and that is the only thing that can make us whole. And when we realize that, and even in the Gospel of Luke, when Jesus is baptized by John the Baptist, and he is then kind of anointed by the Spirit, and that's when his ministry starts. Before he begins his ministry, after he goes down and is submerged and is baptized, he goes out into the wilderness for 40 days and he fasts and he doesn't eat anything. And the devil comes and he tempts Jesus 3 times. And every time he tempts Jesus, he uses something that would tempt the flesh in desperation, right? So the first thing is that, Jesus hadn't eaten anything in 40 days, and the devil was like, you are the Son of God, right? So why don't you tell that stone to be bread? And not only did Jesus resist that temptation to prove himself to the devil, but he was like, man cannot live by bread alone. It is written that man cannot live by bread alone. So Jesus recalled when God said, man doesn't live by bread alone. So it's like, God keeps me alive. I am nourished on the sustenance of wisdom, as well as bread. And I am going to be sustained by the Creator, and who called me into the wilderness to fast. So I don't need food until it's time to have food. I have dominion over my appetite. I can say no with hunger to the food, and that means that there was no gap where a demon could get in and play on Jesus's lack, right? There was no lack. He was whole. He wasn't needy. And when we're needy for things and we want something so bad, that's what the opening happens, where it creates vulnerability for us to be controlled by our demons, right? So again, in the same instance, Jesus showed us not to be reactive when people want us to prove ourselves or to explain ourselves or defend ourselves. Because anytime, we see these miracles revealed, there are also times that we can go back and see examples of how a seed was planted early on for this to happen. So Jesus had planted the seed early on in his ministry when he overcame the devil himself and said, no, I don't need bread to survive. God will help me survive until I get out of the wilderness. This is what he wants me to do. He'll provide me the strength to get through it. So the devil was bested in that moment. And then the next time, the devil tempted him with other things, and Jesus didn't need those things either. And he knew what God's word told him. And so he knew not to be confused. It was that simple, to just maintain that. Well, Jesus coming down into the body, defeating the devil in the flesh, paved the way, planted the spiritual seed for the soul to also ascend and be able to embody that truth within the physical body. And also after the death, the soul can remember that wisdom that was revealed, that eternal light that was revealed, and not fall prey to the tests of the gatekeepers of the powers, that stand between us and paradise beyond, right? So it helps us unlock each stage of the ascension of our soul when we know these things, and we reveal this truth and ground it into the body while we are in the material. So the seed level of Hanukkah itself began in the garden, when after the fall, Adam and Eve, they ate of the fruit on their birthday, which was in September. Rosh Hashanah is in September. And so after the fall, that is during the fall equinox, when the days start to become shorter. And so Adam saw that the days were shorter, the light was growing dimmer and shorter, and he thought that because of their sin and because of his decision, that they were descending back into darkness, and the creation itself was having its ruin and undoing, all because of Adam. So Adam decided that he said, God, I am not going to eat. I'm going to fast and pray until you change your mind, until you forgive me for the sake of humanity, not for myself, but for the sake of the future, right? And so Adam sacrificed himself every day, day and night, until the sun returned, till the light began to return, which was like he got to the solstice and he thought, oh my God, the days are growing so short. We're going into absolute darkness. So the solstice happens over 3 days. And then from there, on the third day, on the 25th of December, the light begins to become reborn, right? So it's the days jump around because of the calendar, but it's always really magical when they line up and synchronize over perfectly. Hanukkah precedes or when Hanukkah starts after or during the solstice, so that the feast of the 13-day feast of the goddess all lines up. But so that's some of the background, the seed level of Hanukkah. So when the days started growing again, it was on the 8th day that after Adam had fasted. He fasted for 7 days, nothing happened. It was on the 8th day of the fast that the light began to return. The 7 represent the 7 dimensions of human existence and what we can connect to in the upper realms. It's like 7 days of the week. It's like the 7 represents the natural world that human beings interact with, and 8 represents the level of the miraculous, when we go beyond the natural world, the natural order. So this is the supernatural. So Adam on the 8th day, that's when the miracle was revealed. Well, this is this event. It was the original seed level that opened up the cosmic window. So after the light began to return, Adam said, "Oh my gosh, let every year we commemorate this with the festival of lights, or a feast of lights." And we will remember these days by celebration and joy and connecting to the light. And so we will feast. And so that's how the festival first started, or that was the seed level of the festival. Adam was representing the seed of the coming of the future Christ that would come down and sacrifice himself for the world. And also the solstice is the revealing of the Christ being born on Christmas, the representation of the crucifixion, the death, the resurrection. But yeah, so then it was later on that the Maccabees were able to defeat the Greeks, and when the temple oil lasted 8 days, that wasn't the first event that marked the birth of Hanukkah. Hanukkah was like the miracle of Hanukkah that was named after that event was able to happen. That miracle was and there were several miracles on that day, but those miracles were able to happen on that day because they occurred during that opening in the cosmic windows of time, if that makes sense to you guys. So let's grab our cards for the week. Oh my gosh, we have sorrow. Now, another thing that was mentioned in all of these passages that I've been reading this week, something that remained consistent, is whether we're talking about Mary the Mother or Mary Magdalene. After Revelation is revealed, they sit in contemplation and silence as they hold the wisdom in their heart, which mirrors after the revelation of Jesus comes, there is the rest of Christ. We receive the rest and the peace of Jesus. When in Luke, when Jesus addresses the synagogue for the first time in his village, and he says that he is the revelation of the prophecy of Isaiah. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He says this passage, and then he sits. After he says this, he goes and sits down. Like there's barely any detail about this whole scene playing out, but it says he goes and sits, right? Demonstrating physically Christ's rest. Does that make sense? The moment where we pause and we receive. The black dress here that I am wearing represents the dark feminine, the space, the empty space in the vessel that is left open for new creation, right? The darkness, the rest, the void, winter, right? The soil that nurtures the seed that's going to break open come early spring. So, in a way, Advent and Hanukkah have us take a moment to look and examine our sorrow and our sadness. What is bringing darkness into our life still that we can change, that we can forgive, that we can let go of, that we can find redemption? What bitterness can we turn sweet with a different perspective, with a change of heart? What forgiveness can we give, right? What pain can we let go of, that we heal from, right? What fears can we face? Can we overcome bad patterns or mindsets or addictions and be free from those? Can we be liberated from the parts of our ego that perpetuate our suffering, right? And the holy sort of event that is associated with the supernal feminine, which is the divine supernal mother, like there's the supernal triad at the top of the tree of life, that is that Or Haganuz, the endless light, which is Keter, the primordial point, where that all encompassing oneness light of God comes in and first pierces the veil of existence. And then it goes directly to the divine masculine, and it is manifested in the form of like unadulterated potential, like dynamism, right? Think about an atom being split open and having no form, but all that energy just out of its casing, right? Completely destructive and no form, right? But then the feminine, the supernal mother, is void or dark, like not void, but darkness. It is restriction. It is a container that takes that light and makes it into something more refined, more definite, right? So there is a spiritual experience, right? Or sort of like a spiritual affliction that one can experience. It's associated with the Divine Mother, or the Sfirat of Binah. And that is called the holy vision of sorrow. When we see the world and the suffering in it, and we feel it in our heart, and we see what could be the world had we been better stewards, had we already lived into our full potential and been fully corrected souls, who could have overcome the tricks of the ego, right? And so we see what could be and what is actually, and we seek to make that correction. We seek to heal what it needs healing. We seek to repair what needs repairing. We seek to transmute the darkness into goodness and into light. And so the vision of sorrow is painful, but it's something that is sacred and holy, because it opens you up for so much more depth and understanding and compassion. And, all the Marys that were in Jesus's life were blessed to have the greatest peaks of joy in their knowing of Jesus, and Mary as being the vessel that brings forth Jesus as her son. But she also knows the deepest sorrow, because she has to feel the ultimate loss of being the closest to him. And yet, she has the most painful personal loss in knowing what Jesus is going to sacrifice, what he's going to give, and what he's going to suffer through. And all the sacrifices that she had to make in the motherhood of Jesus, as giving him as a gift unto God, and not seeking to own him and keep him for her own. He had to go out and go on a mission and leave home and have a short life and take risks and do things that would terrify a mother. So, in order to know the most, to be the most celebrated and blessed of all women, above all women, she also had to know the greatest sacrifice and the greatest sorrow. So if you are feeling tender around the holidays, you're in good company. It's an invitation into what is holy and sacred, and that can be the place where you meet Christ and the Father in a whole new way. And miracles and light can be revealed in a different level, in a different quality than in the rest of the year. So, friendship, I love this coming together. Another aspect of Hanukkah that we were talking about, night one, is about being in awe of the beauty and the greatness, and like becoming, when Mary received the mission, she was accepting that not for the sake of receiving for herself alone, but for the sake of sharing, right? She became prepared as a vessel to receive the light of God, not just for herself alone, but for the sake of sharing, literally as the mother of the Messiah, the Christ, who would come in and elevate and save and redeem all the souls of mankind, right? So we extend our hands in friendship and unity and love and caring, and we do acts of sharing at this time of year, and we make an effort to be vessels that are sharing the light of the Creator and being channels for that light in the world. And just knowing that maybe people are tender this time of year, and being a friend to them and being a light to each other and a comfort to one another during difficult times. Ooh, endings that lead to beginnings. So the fern here, ferns are, I believe, associated with Venus, if I'm not mistaken. They're like an earthy, watery kind of elemental plant that provides protection. And it's like a feminine protection. So I love that this ending, whenever I see this card, it always makes me think there's already new growth and new life coming here, right? The night, Jesus was born in the night, and he heralded the coming of a new day, a new era, right? And so there is an ending of like an old era and an old consciousness, and we are beginning a new day and a new dawn. And so through our connection with the candles during Hanukkah, through our connection with our consciousness of the light of the Creator being available to connect to, through having enough desire to make space for that during Advent and during Hanukkah, and being willing to have a change of heart and a change of consciousness, being, receptive and asking, hey, can you come and heal me, right? Because another thing in the Gospel of Luke talked about how God went to the house of Simon, and Simon and his wife had been seeking God out to heal their mother-in-law because she had a fever, right? And so what does the feminine represent? The soul. The soul was sick. So God was, Simon was seeking, right? The conscious mind and the feminine, the soul, are seeking out the Christ to heal the soul, right? So we're seeing that this is an ending, this time of year is an ending of old, worn out, dark cycles that aren't bringing any more life, any more fruit, right? And it's a new chapter that we're moving into. And even with this conjunction with Neptune and Saturn in Aries, 0 degrees of Aries in February, it's a 330-year cycle that's ending and beginning. Like this is huge. This is like such beginning energy, this big ending of major chapters, beginning of new chapters. So we're celebrating the end of the year here. Oh my gosh, and observe with awe and wonder the light, right? Couldn't be more right on the money for the first night of Hanukkah. The sunflower follows, the face of the sunflower follows the sun through the day. They follow the light, right? They look to the light. They're looking for the light. This person is representing the awe of looking at the wonder and the magic and the miracles and connecting with God's creation. And that is what brings about the transformation and the metamorphosis here represented in the butterflies. The butterfly starts as the caterpillar, right? But then goes through a process of death and unbecoming, right? Goes into that dark underworld and then is resurrected as a new creature, reborn, something completely different, right? And so that's what's possible this time of year. The Christ is coming to be born into the world. The Hanukkah, you know, is the seed level of the beginning of this, right? The coming of the Christ. The Advent is telling us all about the miracle, being the vessel, connecting to the miracles, the good news coming to set us free and liberate us. So just being willing to connect right now, you might have deeper understanding that you would at another time, because you had the desire and you made the effort to connect. All right, you guys, that's all for tonight. I'll see y'all again tomorrow for our weekly anchor message, where we will get our lessons and assignments for the week to come. All right, spiritual lessons, that is. All right, ciao, peace.